Welcome to another episode of Floating Along. I'm Lisa,
And I'm Darren.
navigating life on the water full-time in our 62-foot boat, Soraya. Come along for the ride as we share our adventures and misadventures with you on the UK inland waterways.
Hello, so today it's time to service the Beta43, our engine here in narrowboat Soraya. Oil capacity is approximately 9 litres. So what we're going to do today is we're going to change the air filter, the oil filter and the oil, the diesel filter, and we're also going to change the automatic transmission fluid in the gearbox and have a good old tidy round in here and just make sure that everything's good. First things first, remove the dipstick. Second thing, unscrew the oil filler cap. Always have a look inside here, because if there's any bubbles or froth in here, that can indicate that you've actually got water in your engine. But you can see that's all lovely and dry. So put that safer to one side. Now, because we can't get to the sump in a narrowboat like this, we have to use a stirrup pump, which is here. Has a little cap on it. You undo the cap. Keep that very safe to one side. Now we do actually, which you can't see on camera, we do actually have a lever down here which dictates whether the flow, it's an isolation tap basically, whether the flow can come up to the pump. These containers are the ones that we used on our last service. Always keep the empty ones because you need to pump the old oil out, so you might as well pump it into these, seal these up. Now, getting rid of your old engine oil on a narrowboat can be a little bit of a nightmare. If you're registered at a local tip, you can take it there and dispose of it there. If you go into a local garage, as in a car mechanics place, and ask them very nicely and give them sometimes like 10, 20 quid, they'll pour it into their containers that they use when they service cars. What you must never do is dump these in the CRT bins. It costs the CRT an awful lot of money to then get rid of the waste. It's not environmentally friendly to do it. And of course, the more it costs the CRT, the more your license fees are going to go up at the end of the day. So always dispose of it sensibly. So what I'm going to do is going to put the nozzle in the end of here, and I don't know whether the camera will catch this. Let me move my leg. Not a lot of room in these engine bays, folks. So that's there. Slight angle. Lift the stirrup up, and as you can see, I don't know if the camera's picking that up even on zoom, but it is pumping the old engine oil out into there. This does take a little while, so we might be back in a few minutes, folks. Right, so I've done one. This one's now coming to the end. You can hear it. You can hear it start to splurge and gurgle a bit. You might, I don't know whether the camera can pick this up, but there's actually steam coming off that. That's because you always run your engine beforehand. Ours was ran because the washing machine was on, and I left it for an hour to cool down a little bit before I climbed in here. It thins the oil out, makes it easier to pump out. Now, most importantly, turn the isolation tap off. If you don't know which direction is off, it should be across the flow. And most importantly, again, put that end in. So I'll just give that another wipe with a dry tissue, and then oil filter. Now, as we all know, these are very friendly and they're lucky messing with them, so the oil filter is all the way down there. This one here is a diesel filter. The oil filter is basically underneath this big alternator there. It does cost quite a bit to service an narrowboat engine and parts and oil, etc. But if you can do it yourself, you will certainly save a couple of £100 in labour, and at least you'll know exactly what's being done. But you have to be relatively competent mechanically to know exactly which bit is what and what you're actually doing with it. So that is all the oil out. Put the lids on, get these off the boat, make sure everything's clean before I tackle anything else. Filter removal wrench, fantastic piece of kit. Just slips over, tighten it up, loosen it off a bit. Little trick I do when I can find them. There they are. Once I've got it slightly loose, I pop the filter into a doggy poo bag and then wind it out. So when it does wind out, if anything does drip out or run, you will catch quite a few bits in that before you can put it into a bag. Set up on my stern already, which is here, is a builder's bucket with a puppy pad at the bottom, a big puppy pad, which soaks up all sorts of moisture. And then I can just put my waste straight into that. So I'm going to put a puppy pad underneath the oil filter in case anything gets past me, and that way I haven't got to try and clean underneath the engine. So I have to climb over diesel pipes, etc. Get round this side. Puppy pad down underneath the engine as much as I can to come round even more.
Bit of a tight squeeze.
Well, I'm not the smallest of people, but how other people manage, I don't know. Although different engines have different layouts. It's alright getting in, getting out. Of course, I'm at an age now where my mind is making promises my body can no longer keep. So that just slips over, you wind it out a little bit, that just slips over the oil filter, then you wind it in, which tightens it onto the filter. I only need to loosen it and then I can take this off and stick the poo bag over it. Now when you put an oil filter and a diesel filter on, they should be just beyond hand tight. So I always wear a nice grippy pair of gloves, just so I can get it just beyond hand tight. Always make sure when you take the oil filter off that the rubber seal has come with it, because if it hasn't, just take it off. Because the new filter comes with a rubber seal, which you put a little bit of new engine oil around to lubricate it before you put it on. If you don't take the other seal off, usually it comes off with the oil filter, but if you don't take it off and you try to put the new filter on, it will not seal because it's too spongy, and then you end up with oil leaks all over your engine bay. So poo bag on, slide it over the filter, which will help to catch some drips, and then just wind it off. We're losing some oil onto the puppy pad, which we knew we would. And there is the old engine oil filter off. Now this is where you see an old man in a precarious position trying to get out an engine bay. See, I knew that Kama Sutra book had come in handy. Pop that in there, in that bucket with the other rubbish. Grab some more blue tissue. Wipe your hands.
Clean as you go.
And make sure that that rubber seal is gone. No, it hadn't. Here it is. That's the old engine oil
Well checked.
filter seal.
So what would have happened had you not removed it?
The other one just doesn't seat properly and it'll start to leak.
Okay, just in case anybody
And
wants to
then
know.
you could be several hours down the cut, your oil pressure goes AWOL, and you open up your lid and find you've got oil all over your engine bay.
Is that where the expression flipped your lid comes from?
You'd certainly flip your lid if you'd done a stupid mistake like that and not double checked it. So make sure you get the right filter, oil filter, Beta Marine part. I'll show you the new filter in here.
So is it always better to have the brand
Not always, I mean, at least you know that this was designed for the engine, so that's that rubber seal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the new engine oil, which is here, crack the lid.
Because I think this engine has seen an assortment of parts. But
Get some clean oil. Put a little bit on the seal. nice.
So would your advice be to buy the brand that goes with your engine generally, or just certain consumables?
Some of it comes down to your budget, if I'm
Yeah.
honest. There are cheaper filters out there made by third parties that are probably just as good, but Midland Chandler's had the original ones for this engine, so I'm fitting original equipment. I mean, the last one that came off was an Alco filter, which is the one I've just put in the bin, and it's not given us any problems. And I think it was probably around the same price. So
yeah, so budget obviously dictates a lot of things, but generally speaking, then there's not much of a difference.
Personally, and this is just me personally, doesn't mean it's the right way to do it, it's just the way I do it. I never skimp on the quality of the oil, because at the end of the day, if the oil's no good, your engine's not going to be any good for very long. So that's been greased or oiled. Pop it back on its thread, wind it on by hand, round and round and round.
Round and round the garden like a teddy bear. One step, two step. I won't tickle you under there.
Right, so that is good and tight by hand. So I'm just going to put both hands on it and give it a little extra twist if I can.
Is that why you need your gadget again?
No, because if you use a tool in it, you might over tighten it, which what that will do if you over tighten it is distort that seal, and then it will pee oil out all over the place.
Thank you.
So that's the oil emptied and the oil filter changed. I'm going to put some nice clean gloves on. The Beta Marine engine is actually made by Kubota, which makes plant engines, so tractors, diggers, excavators, that kind of thing. And it's just a marinized version of that. So it has a few little extra bits on and brackets on for extra alternators for power, etc. And obviously it has a stirrup pump to be able to get the oil out. So the air filter, really simple on this engine. Just a wing nut on this box here. Undo that. Don't lose the wing nut. And when I say don't lose stuff, and you think, well, he's in a small engine bay, how can you lose stuff? Trust me, these engine bays can suck up stuff and disappear it faster than anything else. So don't lose the wing nut. One dirty, one clean. That's the difference. That's not too bad, but it's due for a service, it's getting done. And I think about £16 for an air filter, something like that. Pop that back in there. Pop the lid back on. And screw your wing nut on.
Simple as that.
That is the simplest job to do. It sucks air in from a nozzle that's pointing down there.
So at this point then, we've got the oil filter changed,
The
air filter,
and the engine is completely empty of oil. So next thing is put the oil back in before I do the diesel filter. Little funnel, pop it in there. So it takes 9 litres, so what I do is I put 5 litres in straight away from the container, and then I have in my little bucket of engine tricks. You can see it's had oil at the bottom.
very high-tech piece of kit.
That's my oil jug, and I'll put 4 litres in from this. Then when I've done the diesel filter and the gearbox, I shall run the engine, which then puts oil into the oil filter. I'll leave it to settle. I'll run it for maybe 5 minutes or so, then leave it to settle, and then I shall check the oil filter isn't leaking and that the dipstick is where it should be on the markers. If it's not, I can add a little bit of oil to it. It's always easier to add oil than it is to take it back out, which luckily you can do because you've got a stirrup pump. So that's to one side for now.
Yeah, which is much easier than our previous boat.
Yes, which on our previous boat there wasn't a stirrup pump, and you couldn't get to the sump plug, so what you had to do is put a little 12-volt pump down through the dipstick hole and suck it all out, and I can assure you, you never got anywhere near all of the oil out each oil change. So this is 1540 Beta Marine, which is what's recommended for this engine.
And that was on offer, wasn't it?
That was on offer, which was quite handy. It worked out quite a bit cheaper. So that, I can just pour 5 litres straight in to the engine. Now, you service these engines every 200 hours. It's got nothing to do with miles, it's down to hours on these sorts of engines.
Well, that's the general principle, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think we're slightly over the 200 hours, but that was because of where we were located and being able to get the equipment. But I know some boaters who certainly don't do it every 200 hours. They'll do it once a year, despite however many miles they've done. Now, before each cruise, I do check the oil and water level and the belts, etc. anyway. It's just a habit I've got into. So that's the first 5 litres in.
And are you going to keep those containers for next time?
These are kept, and then next time I change it, these will get the oil pumped into, the dirty oil pumped into these. So that is now empty, so that actually lives up there. It's up and out of the way. So now I need the one that I opened earlier, which is around somewhere. Where did I put that?
It's a mystery.
It's there it is. Right, so I want my jug back again. I would say put it on a level surface, but this is a narrowboat, so you have to get it more or less. Now, because the litre is quite close to the top, I think last time I actually did it just by adding up the right amount of numbers.
Yeah, I think you did it about 900 last time.
I think so.
Didn't you?
I think that certainly springs to mind. I'll tell you what, I'm going to do it. That's 800.
Thereabouts. It's obviously one a slight wonk. You'd hope so, wouldn't you, with new oil?
Yeah, I think so. So that was about 800. So what we'll do is we'll do another 800, then I'll do a 400, then I know that that is 2 litres.
So we'll probably come back when we've got to the 4 litres.
Yeah. Brings us up to 9 litres. Like I said, I'll let that settle, and then I'll run the engine when I've done the diesel filter, and see where the levels are after the engine's ran for a little while. I know I keep saying this, but seriously, when you're in the engine bay messing with oils and stuff, clean as you go, it is easier.
And the creaking that you can hear
Lisa's knees.
is me on these steps. You've tried filming yourself doing this before, haven't you?
Wasn't going to happen. It just didn't work.
Bit difficult.
Right.
And dangerous.
Oil filter box, air filter done. Diesel filter. Now with the diesel filter, looks very similar to the oil filter, other than the fact that it says fuel filter on the box, and it's not as chunky. You just say fuel filter. Do not get them mixed up. Again, lubricate the top, but I'm going to lubricate the top with diesel because I'm actually going to fill that with diesel. If you don't fill it with diesel before it's fitted, what happens is you end up with a big airlock. You end up having to bleed the whole system, and it's a nightmare, quite frankly. Well, it is for me anyway. So I'm now going to get another jug, which is under my oil jug, because that's my oil jug, which I can just put that little bit in. That's now gathered at the bottom. And I have a diesel jug, which I'll just give a wipe out.
Ta-da!
They are different jugs, that's how I know the difference. I'm just going to give that a wipe out. I'm going to get some diesel out of the
jerry can
at the front. It's the same principle with the diesel filter. Use the tool to slacken it, and because it's actually upright, not on the side, it is easier to get a poo bag. It's under here. That there is the priming button. So once I've changed the filter and put the new filter on that's full of diesel, I will pump that until it goes hard. Ooh, misses. And then that sort of moves everything out of the way. Chuck that under there, just in case we get any drips. I now need to go and get some diesel. Back momentarily, folks. Right, so I think that might be a better way of picking up that tool in use. Just clamps onto there. Slacken it a little bit and slide it around.
It's like a spanner, but it clips all the way around.
Clamps, yeah. Of course, just to make life that little bit more difficult, the oil dipstick chute is actually just at the bottom of the filter, so there we go. Slide that off. And I think it's £12–13, but look after it, it'll last you for many years, and it does save a lot of aggravation. So poo bag, just in case you get caught short. Slip it over the filter. It's easier said than done. Just like I said, stuff's in the way. There we go. It's on. Now remembering that this filter is full of diesel. There we go. Yep. Straight the rubbish. Got some blue roll.
Again, handy to have this bucket of rubbish lined with a bin liner. Just makes life easier and cleaner as you tidy as you go along.
Right, new filter.
Look, you just dropped a tissue just down the side.
That's alright. I'm going to get the engine bay clean anyway. So new filter. Fill it with diesel.
Oh, you can see what he's doing now. He's just running his finger around the rib.
Some of the diesel, drop that back on there.
I'm hoping the camera picks this up, but it's difficult to see on a tiny screen. So again, this video is designed for those that are wanting to service their own engine, just get a few ideas. Or if you just want a bit of entertainment.
Yeah.
Oh, like that.
Yeah.
Poor. It's good if there's no smelly vision.
Yeah.
Because it reeks of diesel now.
Diesel does smell a little bit, yeah.
So again, just hand tight.
Just as tight as you can get it by hand, yes. Right, priming button.
Does that start to feed it through?
Yeah. There.
How do you know how many presses?
Because
to
it
do?
gets stiffer.
Okay.
I always get stiffer, so you know it's under some pressure. Right, a bit more cleaning up, and we'll come back to you in a minute, folks. I'm going to check the oil in a minute. So that's the diesel filter done, oil filled up. Most importantly, put the dipstick back in. If you don't, it will spray oil in every direction. Put that back in there. Obviously at the minute the oil filter doesn't have any oil in it because it's not been pumped around the engine. So if I bring that out, it's actually showing full on the line, bang on 9 litres. Okay, so I'm going to start the engine, which will take probably half a pint away, and put it in the oil filter, and then I'll let the engine settle while I change the gearbox oil, which is automatic transmission fluid in there. Which has to be sucked out by a syringe. So quick check, oil filters on, diesel filters on, filling cap is back on, dipstick is back on. I'm just going to clear up any drips underneath, because then what I want to do then, once I've started the engine, is keep a very close eye on any spillages in case anything is leaking, because you never know. And I remember rightly last time I serviced the engine, because of paranoia, I actually put a puppy pad under the oil filter just to make sure when we were going on our first cruise afterwards that everything was where it should be and not leaking. So this is the bit that always makes me slightly nervous, is will she start? Get rid of these dirty gloves. One key. Everything is back where it should be. And will she continue running? I have got the gearbox disengaged at the minute, so we'll just increase the revs a little bit to get the oil going. Back in tick over. I'll give it a couple of minutes and then check for leaks, let the oil settle whilst I do the gearbox oil, and then I can check the dipstick again and add a little bit of oil if it needs it. Busy little junction this. Now I'm going to check to see if there's any leaks. One thing I'm going to do, and there is no messing about with this, you stay away from them pulleys, because this engine will have you, and I just need to look around the corner. I'm keeping my hands and my clothes well away from that end of the engine. With that?
Are you happy, dear?
Yes. Always good when it starts and keeps running. It will initially start anyway, because the diesel will be in the lines from the previous run. So I always like to just give it a little bit of an oomph, just to push it through. Once I've done the gearbox oil and I've checked the levels again and I've had a clean up and I've got all paranoid about leaks, I will then run the engine on idle, just on tick over, in neutral, probably for about an hour, just to make sure she doesn't cough and splutter or do anything silly. But yeah, that's a basic engine service done, apart from the gearbox. Last time I changed the gearbox oil, which was the first time I changed it on this boat, the gearbox oil was absolutely disgusting. It was black, it was a little bit gritty. I don't know the last time it had been done, so I got out as much as I could, put some automatic transmission fluid in it, the same amount that came out, because that was what was level on the dipstick, filled it back up. We were on chains on Armco at the time, so I made sure the ropes were decent and tight, and I actually run the engine in gear against the chains, which isn't all that advisable, but it was concrete bank. If it had been mud banks, I'd have never done that, because it wrecks the banks. Left it running for 2 or 3 minutes, just on tick over with the prop running, just get the gearbox going, turned it off, gave it half an hour just for the engine to cool down so I could get back in there. Went in, took the gearbox oil out again so it had a bit of a flush, and then put new gearbox oil in. And I have to say, I check that probably once a month. I check the levels on the gearbox and it's still nice and pink. So I certainly think I did the right thing last time by giving it a bit of a flush. This time I shall simply change it. How I've done that,
because we've had Soraya now for coming up for a year.
Coming up for a year, yeah. Is this. In fact, that's actually automatic transmission fluid still trapped in that pipe. Put the pipe at the bottom of the gearbox and you just literally suck it up into the syringe. And then what I do then is I keep some little containers handy So I've got a old hot chocolate one here. There really isn't much in there. I think from memory it's 750 millilitres, something like that. We've also got a blue toilet sachet one here. So I've got something to put them in. I may even, that one's full, I may even squirt it into the old engine oil bottle.
Yeah, containers with lids.
Yes. So that's what I'm going to do next. And again, automatic transmission fluid, not good for your skin. It's not made by Garnier, you know. It will burn. So gloves on, socket set to take the nut off the top. The nut has a washer underneath it, don't lose the washer. And the nut, when it comes out, actually forms the dipstick. But I'll show you that in a minute. When I've just, with a degree of paranoia, stuck my head back under the back to make sure there's no drips. Well, that can't be right, because it's not leaking. Must have done something wrong somewhere. Right, so the gearbox is here. The socket set is here. This is just a little one we keep on board. I do have a much larger one in our vehicle, which is a massive one. So any imperial and metric, and if my memory serves me right, this is a 17, I think, or is it a 19? No, failed again. It's a 19.
Reminds me of that event we went to. Is it Boat Life?
Oh yeah, were you in your 10mm socket? Crafty mare.
Do you want to explain what happened?
Big bucket of mixed sockets. Put your hand in, feel around, without looking. You can pull out a 10mm socket, you won a prize. I've worked with sockets since I was a little lad, and I think I got an 11 out. And I thought, well, that feels about right, that's an 11. Lisa puts her hand in, wiggles around, completely rookie, pulls out a 10mm. Rigged, I'm telling you, it was rigged.
There was method in my madness.
But at the end of the day, anyone who's worked with enough 10mm sockets will know you never want one when you never find one when you want one. They're always going bloody missing. So I think I did the right thing by not being able to find a 10mm, whereas a complete amateur will be able to put the finger straight on it. So there you go. That's my logic. I'm sticking to it. If you don't like it, put something in the comments, but I'm sticking with it.
Funny.
Undo that nut, which is down here. I'll show you in a minute when I lift it out. You'll see what it looks like.
I'm going to try and zoom in. There we go.
There we go. That's loose. That's off. So like I said, there is a washer underneath. Bring the washer with it. That is the nut you're taking off, and you can see there is the dipstick at the end. You can still see just how clear that transmission fluid is on there. When I took it out last time, it looked like a dirt diesel engine in there. It was absolutely filthy. So I gave it a bit of a flush and then drained it again. So clean this, clean the nut.
You can just
And
see
the gearbox is down here. So we get a container. We get our syringe and our pipe. We poke the pipe into there, into the bottom of the gearbox. Whittle it down till it hits the bottom. What I am going to do is actually going to put it in here so I can actually measure the volume again. I think it was 750ml, and then I can clean this jug out. So I'll know if it's in the bottom, because when it comes up, there we go, it'll start sucking up fluid.
I'm now bent over the steps trying to film this.
Well, there is a little bit of a vacuum on this, so you do have to wait for it to catch up with the plunger. You feel the plunger relax when it gets to it.
Well, there's a measure on the plunger.
Yeah, that's 100ml. Put that in there and then squeeze. I could disconnect the pipe, but then it runs risk of dripping automatic transmission fluid all over the place.
So you're trying to do it in the
I'm
cleanest
trying to do
way.
it cleanly, yeah. I'm not overly zealous with the engine bay, but I do believe a clean, tidy one is a safer environment, full stop. Everything's secured in its place. And when you have to come in here, which
Oops, you're not in.
any boater who is looking after their boat will come in their engine bay on a fairly frequent and regular basis. This makes it a more pleasant environment to be in, because they're not particularly friendly, I have to say.
I know you swept the gullies recently, but there's all sorts of
Oh
stuff
yeah,
in
no,
here again.
it'll be, once I've done in here and I've checked the oil levels, I should get the vacuum back out, go back through the rain gullies. That's 200 mil. So we'll come back to you in a minute. But this like watching paint dry otherwise. Right, so that's the gearbox empty. It's gurgled and splurgled and blown bubbles at me.
Sludgy.
Well, that's like better than what came out last time. So just get rid of the last bit. In there. Get the bits of fluid off. And let's see where we're at volume wise. I think it was either 750 or, but yeah, 700, so it was around about that. And again, we actually bought the original Beta Marine one because it was actually cheaper than other brands on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour that away, give that jug a clean. I'm going to pour it into the old engine oil container, give that jug a clean, put 700 ml into that with clean stuff and put it back into the gearbox. And then again I shall nip it up, run the engine once I've checked the oil levels, put it in gear for 10 seconds or so, and then I shall give it a little bit and I shall check the levels on that.
Right, see you back in a mo.
Yeah. Oh, this smells. I forgot just how bad ATF actually does stink. ATF of course being automatic transmission fluid. It is
Why? Yes, it does.
Yeah, it does stink. It does look rather tasty though, I have to say, when you pour it out.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's the colour it's supposed to be.
Like a crimson colour.
It is.
That one's blue.
Yeah. So, that's what it should look like. Remember last time we changed the gearbox oil, she ran so much smoother, didn't she? The gear changes were lovely.
Oh, yeah, she did.
She was certainly grateful for it.
Well, if we look after her, she'll look after us. And why is it a question for people that boats are always a she?
I could answer that, but I'm married and I quite fancy keeping the bits and bobs attached.
Yes, dear. I'm just going to wear a badge that says, yes, dear.
Yes. Let's face it, you've always been able to take me back to anywhere we've been. But
To
only
apologise.
Only ever to apologise. So that's that washer that goes on top of the dipstick that bolts into the gearbox. You see, without that, there's no guarantee that would seal, and also that would give you a false reading. And on the dipstick, as you can see, that's probably 20%. So it would give you a false reading if you haven't put it on.
Oops.
Yeah.
Piece of tissue just fell in. Socket set to tighten.
Well, I'm actually just going to do this hand tight for a minute while it settles in, and then I'll just give it a little nip. Because I need to take it out again in a bit to check the levels. You should expect to set a couple of hours aside to service your engine. Don't do it on a day when you've got a list of 1,000 things you want to achieve.
because then if something takes longer...
It does, and at the end of the day, you need your engine. So
it's worth
take your time.
The investment of your time.
There are multiple Facebook groups that will help you if you get stuck with anything, or if you suddenly find actually you need to bleed your diesel because you haven't put enough in, or just something else has gone awry. I'm using original spec equipment designed for this engine. Otherwise, normally I have to say I wouldn't be servicing the engine on a Sunday, because if I got the wrong filter or anything, Midland Chandler's is closed, which is where we got the parts from, which means I then either have to find a marina somewhere locally I can drive to get the right part that have it in stock, or wait with an engine I can't use until Midland Chandler's opens on a Monday. So normally when I've done this, I've actually done it midweek. But today was Sunday and I knew I'd got the right stuff because it's all been cross-referenced, and it is by the part number, which is here on the box, actually the ones for this boat. So I know from previous service work that's been done in the service book, it does give the reference numbers for the filters anyway. So I knew I was good to go on that. Yeah. That's done. I'm going to have a clean up in here, folks. Then I'm going to check the, in fact I can check the oil level now because it should have settled a bit. Like I said, this is not necessarily the right way of servicing an engine, but it's the way I do it. It's the way I've been told to do it. So if we have a look on the dipstick, let's give it a wipe, pop it back in. Might not even be able to see this, folks. It is there. So where's my glasses?
Wherever you left them.
For God's sake. I don't know where they are.
That was the socket set that's just fell into the engine.
I don't know where I've put my glasses.
Are they outside by the bin anywhere? Top of that box.
There we go. Right, so we'll leave the sockets all emptied out. Unfortunately they've landed in the container, that because of course they're never going to land on a clean dry surface. A lot of them have landed in the container we have under our stern gland, which has got about ½ an inch of dirty water in it at the minute.
So when we were saying earlier, allow time. That's one of the reasons
I've
why.
always wanted to polish my socket sets. So this is something to do, doesn't it?
And this is filming warts and all. This won't be edited out, just to show you the reality.
So we are there. We're right there.
Don't know if this is picking it up.
It's just shy of being full. Because obviously I said the engine oil would then fill up the oil filter. So I shall add a little bit to that in a bit when I've tidied up in here. Just want the oil just to settle a bit more if it does want to settle. I'm going to have a good clean round.
Quite sure what you can see, folks, but
Show what I can see, let alone what you can see. Oh, there you go, yeah, it is right on the top. That's the gearbox. So yeah, right on the top, you can just see there. So it's not quite on the top line, so I'm just going to give it a tiny little drop more. And then that's the gearbox done, and I can nip that down. So just a little glug more, that'll do.
that was a big glug.
Just wind that in. So you can spend longer, you can spend as long filling about cleaning up and checking levels as you can to do the whole job. Yeah, there you go. It's back on. So there you go. That's job done. That's the gearbox nice and happy again.
So he's not going to knock the socket set again because he's now got it wedged in.
I've got it wedged. In fact, now I've finished with that, I can close the lid. So at least if it does fall in now, it won't empty itself. I managed to recover all the sockets, and yes, for those in the know, I did find the 10mm. It's always an advantage. So I'm going to have a wipe down in here now. A good old wipe down, So I'm going to let the engine run for a bit, and then, in fact, I need to put a little bit more engine oil in first, and then I'm going to give it an hour's running, and then I shall come back and check all the levels. I shan't check the gearbox one, but I will be checking other levels. In fact, I may even get the delectable Mrs. D to get the vacuum, and I shall clean out these gullies again.
Okay, so join us in a short while. Man with a back.
These are rain gullies. These get blocked up and you get water in here. It ends up inside your engine bay rather than out down the side of the boat. Yes, I know you're all thinking in disbelief. Do you vacuum in your engine? Yes, I am. There we go, dear. So I'm just going to put some puppy pads down where I normally put them down, which is a good idea. At least then if anything does start to leak, I get a visual indicator without physically having to climb in and check everything every time we move the boat. So I'm going to do that, put the lids back down, tidy my tools all away, and then I shall put the waste oil and the waste products in the van, because that's the easiest way to take them to a disposal site rather than leave them on the boat. So that's the plan. Right, so that's how we do it. Not that guaranteed to be the most professional way of doing it, but that's how we do it. That's how we did it last time, and she's, touch wood, purred like a kitten the last time, and she's running now. Oil's done, oil's changed, oil filter changed, air filter changed, diesel filter changed, gearbox oil changed. The only thing I haven't done, which I'll do in a second, we have a pre-filter which is down here, which I'll show you now. It's a diesel pre-filter, so if there's any moisture or anything like that that has got into the diesel, I mean, we've just fitted a new diesel cap, so this one should be more sealed anyway. The little turnbuckle underneath, we pop a glove on, turn, it's like a little like butterfly nut, turn that and it drains off the diesel in there. If there's any water or sediment or anything like that, it actually comes out in the pre-filter. So let's have a look. Which way loosens it now?
Righty tighty, lefty loosey.
So let a little bit of diesel run out, nip it back up. That's grey paint, ignore that. That was off the thing. But there's a little bit, tiny little dots of water in there. That's it. That's all there was in there. That saves that going through your engine. It goes into the pre-filter. First time we did it, again I don't know the last time it was ever done, but the first time I checked this engine when we moved on board, there was probably a good tablespoon of oil in there, whereas that's just a few little floaty bits. So nothing to worry about at all. In case you think, oh no, shouldn't have water in your diesel, moisture gets in there at the end of the day. That's what pre-filter's for. It's there to extract it before it gets through to your engine. But you do need to drain it every now and then. And I do it probably once a month, if I'm honest.
Ooh, gimbal's gone weird. So there it is.
So I'm going to put some puppy pads down, one under the oil filter just so I can keep an eye on it, and one under the gearbox where I had one previously anyway. And that's it folks, so now I've bored you to death, you can disappear off and do whatever you were doing while I do this and then tidy up. Bye for now.
Bye for now folks.